Welcome everyone. This is another episode of Empowering Monday, brought to you by our various channels, Munday Layout and the Malaysian Business Magazine Online. I'm your host, Soraya Munday, and today I have a very dear friend and a special guest, Mr.
I'm Rizal. I'm the CEO of TRIXIO Malaysia, an event organizer and a brand experience company in Malaysia.
Oh, thank you for coming and joining us today. And Rizal has been in the ecosystem, in the event space ecosystem for a very long time. And he has also championed or hosted a lot of very interesting high-profile events. If some of you recall, I also was leading the Manufacture event about 2 years ago. This is the man that made everything happen.
Well, so, it's like a teamwork lah.
Yeah lah, teamwork lah. But he was the lead lah. You know, without him, nobody moves. Like that. So today we are going to speak on the topic of the event space and how it has been affected by the COVID-19 and the difficult times that we're having right now. And who better to speak of this than Mr. Rizal himself. So before we go into the the crux of the topic, I'm gonna kind of put Rizal on the spot and ask him a few questions.
Soraya always puts me on the spot.
Because he gives back lah. He always catch on me also. So this is an opportune time to ask him. Okay.
All right.
Rizal, where did you grow up?
So I'm a bit of a mixed case, like a rojak lah, you call it. So I grew up when I was really small. We were in Shah. I was born when I was in Shah. And we moved to Los Angeles, and then
California.
And then I came back to Malaysia, and my father, because he was traveling a lot, we moved back to Johor Bahru, and then after that we moved to London, and then we moved back finally to PJ. So I'm kind of like a PJ boy,
citizen of the world, but PJ at heart.
Yeah, so a bit rojak, but kind of moved around a lot.
Okay, all right, and now you call KL home or Shah Alam home?
Yeah, so I've moved to Shah Alam for more than 10 years. My family's all there. And we just stay in Shah Alam. It's a beautiful place. I love it. But it's a bit far from the city, but still suburbs good.
Good to raise he's got
children.
Three girls.
Yes.
So young, still got already got three girls, okay?
Not so young lah.
Very young lah, Okay, anyone can guess his age, kind of put it in the comments. He's very young boy. Okay, so you kind of traveled the world at a very young age, and did you go to school abroad?
Yeah, so when I was in US, I went to lower school. Then in London, I went to lower school and middle school. Then university, I went to United States.
Okay.
So I was in Western Michigan University in Kalamazoo.
Sangat good school.
Yeah, sangat sejuk.
Yeah, quite different from California.
Yeah. So my brother was living in California, but I was living in this freaking cold Great Lakes. But it was a great place to live because I like the outdoors.
And windy, kan?
Yeah, it's windy and they have thunder snow. The only place in the world that has thunder snow. So I was going to a university in Kalamazoo. Right. And then I came back and just stayed in KL, I guess.
Okay, so we've kind of gotten a bit of your experience growing up. So you've got a lot of international experience in that sense. But also I wanted to ask you, have you got any passion or favorite pastime apart that takes you away from your day-to-day event routine?
So this is a great question, because the best thing about passion, and if you can actually marry it with your work, then people say do what you love. So I'm actually kind of doing what I love. I've always loved design, right? But when I went to university, unfortunately it was 1997. And that was the economic crisis.
You see, 1997, you went to school.
Oh, yeah.
So he's dating himself, but he doesn't look his age. That's my point. Okay.
So we wanted to go, I wanted to do architecture, but I ended up doing supply chain management, which was totally not my jiwa, not my jiwa at all. So if you ask me about my passion, I love design, I love creativity. And the fact that I got the opportunity maybe around 10 or 12 years ago to do what I love and design and work in creative, that's kind of like what I've always wanted to do. Apart from that, I love mountain biking.
So, okay, we'll go to the mountain biking next. Tapi, you part of your work, or you've also got an area of your portfolio that you do designs for, like interior designs,
correct.
Right? Okay.
So if we're trying to get into that, TRIXIO itself was actually, before I was also in a previous company, and we've always done brand experience. So
okay.
I think nowadays the creative industry is not like it used to be before, where you have events, you have ID, you have conferences, whatever. We've seen that the merging of all this, especially with digital, the merging of all these verticals, or whatever you call them, and now we just call it experience, like brand experience. So it could be an interior brand experience, like we've done, showrooms for Ferrari, Maserati, colleges, and all these other kind of corporates, and we try to bring the brand into the space, right? Okay. And of course, events is basically a live version of your brand, right? So this is basically, we boiled it down to experience, brand experience. Yeah, so that's kind of like how we gelled it all together.
So you are operating like a one-stop for
brand experience.
Brand experience.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So for example, if I've got an event, but I don't even know what the tone and the feel of the event should be, I can just bounce off ideas with you.
Yes.
And then you probably come up with like a mock design.
Yeah, so clients, they always have some kind of top line communication. Like for example, I want to do this event and I have this ABC objective. So we look at the objective, and then we look at the brand, and then we try to marry it in terms of design and operations of that experience.
Right.
So basically, something that is actually very complex, we try to make it simple. So simple for the customer, simple for the customer's customer to understand exactly what you want to communicate. Yeah, so I think
because messaging is very key, right?
Yeah, messaging is everything, right? Because you want somebody to go to somewhere and come back with, okay, A, B, C, D, and without even you expressly telling them,
Right.
That's a powerful
experience, to have. Right. Okay, what was your fondest memory during lockdown or during COVID?
Well,
up until now?
Well, it's interesting. I think COVID really created something that maybe in our generation
never experienced.
Even my parents and whatnot. Maybe they did darurat lah.
Yeah. Me 13.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So, but and communists and all that. But I think
your parents are not that old lah.
I think they were around before Merdeka, right? So, but I think it really gave me perspective in terms of like what's important in life and how much I need. I didn't really need much. So I think the fondest memory I would have is spending a lot of time with my family and kind of like getting in touch back with what atomic family is, and then really feeding into that and seeing what's important. So after COVID, post-COVID, I'm spending more time with them and in a meaningful way. And I don't want to sound like but religiously or whatever, but I feel like even religiously, I've kind of rediscovered religion again, and it's been more integral because you're stuck indoors. So everybody kind of like explored cooking, explored religion, explored technology, and I feel like this is a place where
it's much a reset.
Spiritual, it's like a spiritual reset, and even for technology, I think a lot of people are discovering technology, just like us. We had to rediscover technology all over again and see how it would work in a world with COVID.
Yeah, and he's gonna dive deep into how technology has helped him, or he kind of took that opportunity to kind of quickly pivot using technology. But we'll get to that in a bit. Okay, if you had to be stuck during quarantine with one iconic figure, who would it be and why?
Okay, this is a tough question, right? Because I was asking Soraya, like, does it need to be a real person, or can it be like Darth Vader or something? But if it was a real person that's alive, maybe Barack Obama. I think not for the reasons that people may think. I think he just has. For me, my job is a lot of pitching and talking and persuading with customers or trying to communicate a concept. And I feel like the most important thing for me is how human connection happens or interpersonal communication happens. And I feel like Barack Obama has, he's won a Grammy for his storytelling, right? So he has, for me, the best mode of storytelling any person has. And that's something that I feel like, if you can articulate a concept or an idea in the best way, a more captivating way. And that's what we do at work, right? We story tell for brands. And I feel like Barack Obama is that guy that can tell the story in a way where it,
Yeah.
he captured the nation
Yeah.
and the world, right?
I think, yes, you're right. You made a very good point because storytelling, it very much depends on whether that personality is relatable, right? Like, and that's the message behind the story. I mean, look at Steve Jobs. Like any Apple launch is always a storytelling session, right? So there's a lot of impact from how a person can tell his or her story.
Yes.
So Barack Obama, but Darth Vader is number 2, right?
Darth Vader will be interesting, like, because he's got his own interesting story, right?
So you're a Star Wars fan, I presume.
Yeah, I am, but I'm also a Star Trek fan. But
Trekkie for life.
Yeah, Trekkie. Right? But I'm still waiting for the new movie. But I think storytelling is really like how people can relate experiences to other people in a manner where it's very captivating. So for me, that's very important.
And that ties back to your, your day-to-day, your events, and also he's also an MC, by the way. He's a lot better compare or host than I am. So he must be like modest. Actually critiquing me. He said, "Just right."
We should call this Modest Mondays.
Yeah. Next show. Yeah. All right. So last question, or at least for this segment, what does empowerment mean personally to you?
Okay, so when I asked Soraya about what angle of empowerment, because for me, empowerment in the strongest sense of the word is I always feel like I'm empowering somebody. Maybe because I'm always the one in power. I don't know, power trip or whatever. But I've been a CEO for a long time, So, but I think from a perspective of a leader or a CEO, for example, I mean, I think empowering is about how you uplift everybody around you, because any team is as good as the weakest link.
Correct.
Right. So, for example, what I've strived to do in the future is that I always feel like the CEO or any supporting department in a company is about what you can give in terms of tools, in terms of learning, in terms of experience and opportunities to the people around you, and getting them to rise up. Right. So that's been my motto since the beginning. So any stuff that I have, I kind of go on the mentoring style. So I give them, opportunities to kind of do it. My favorite line, and you can ask my staff, is like, you should think about what you think is best in a situation. And that is really when the situation is like, if I'm somebody that has never done that before, or if I'm somebody that has never been given the opportunity to do that, and suddenly I do it, and then and I find out that I can do it. So that fear boundary, you overcome that fear boundary. And I feel like looking back, people have given me that opportunity too. So looking at my back jobs, I had a job in Kemaman before in Terengganu, and it was an industry that I totally didn't know, like oil and gas.
Oil and gas.
Yeah, oil and gas. My brother's like, and it was in sales too.
Wow.
So I'm being
one day is such a good one.
Yeah, but I was an introvert when I was growing up.
No way.
Yes.
You cannot tell.
Yeah, I'm so scared to talk to people when I was growing up. And, and when my brother said, "Hey, you got to go to this place. This is the customer list. Go talk to," and it was Petronas, right? So it was so daunting on me, So I think he put me on a spot.
Just threw you into the deep end.
Yeah, I hated it, right? But if I didn't go through that, I think that experience kind of shaped my life for the next 10 to 20 years.
Right.
So if I was not empowered by somebody, I would not be the person that I am today. So definitely, I feel like that's kind of like giving the opportunity for somebody to try to do it and guide them, and that's what empowerment means to me. Adding value.
Very well said. Okay, so now we're gonna go. We're gonna go into the actual reason why we have Mr. Rizal here, which is to share with the audience this really groundbreaking app / platform that Rizal has managed to kind of bring into the industry. And he's going to tell you a little bit more about the features, the benefits, and how this can help both the event community, or the event organizer community, as well as potentially the users and the community itself. So it goes without saying that COVID and the pandemic and the lockdown has kind of obliterated the events industry. I mean,
yes.
Yeah, right? I mean, from like having massive, public events to zero. Tolo ayam.
Yes.
Right?
Sedih. Very sad.
So our dear friend here has had to quickly pivot and adapt, because otherwise he's going to be answerable to his stakeholders, I'm sure, and no events for the rest of the year and maybe for the foreseeable future. What does he do? But this is a good situation, a good case study of how an entrepreneur should pivot quickly to take advantage of, the current situation, and use that to make something good out of it. Because if a lot of people just kind of sat and wait, hoping that things are going to get better, but people who have foresight will, like Rizal, choose to kind of see what other options are out there. So how has COVID affected? I mean, we know that it's affected the events industry, but can you kind of just give us examples as to
Okay. So, of course, I think the biggest thing here is that there was a lot of the shutdown, right? The MCO, movement controllers. So no events, no gatherings. It's happened not just for us. It's happened for a bunch of industries. For example, like the airline industry,
travel,
hotel,
hospitality.
So unfortunately, for companies that relied 100% on events like us, we were unable to create any kind of value or revenue during this time. And going to the survival mode, we had to pivot. So the black sheep of the industry has always been virtual events. Right? So everybody doesn't want to do virtual events because, events is all about meeting each other, face to face, getting an experience, activation. So
high five,
high five, making t-shirts, wearing caps, stuff like that, right? So the idea of having a goodie bag, the idea of having a virtual event felt like a wet blanket. Like, oh my god, just going to a camera, I'm at home, I'm in my shorts or whatever. So the idea is always, the longest time has always been that it's not being very attractive. But I guess with COVID and the literal restriction of getting out of the house, virtual events started to come in. And the issue also was that, it started becoming all video calls, right? So I'm sure you guys at home, wherever you're joining us, you had tons and tons of video calls like us, right? So during the day, you may have like 4 or 5 video calls. And I feel like some of these video calls were interactive and some of them were just one way. If you're joining a set webinar, it's just a one-way communication.
Let's be real now. Most of the time it was one way.
So you fall asleep.
Being too nice and too polite.
And I think a lot of people also had like webinar or web call or virtual video call fatigue. And I feel like people thought that events were going to be virtual calls. And somewhere around the time where we thought that, okay, video calls like Zoom and all these, it's kind of be able to talk to each other without seeing each other face to face. But it was lacking something.
Okay, sure. So this app that you have is not like...
So we're talking about different industries here. Our app is an event management platform. So it actually helps you manage your event. Okay. Versus video conferencing, which is just like Zoom or Google Meets, where people get on a video call and they just talk. But that does not actually constitute an event, right? So an event is multiple components, just like a normal event, right? So you've got ticketing, you've got presenting, you've got music, sound and light, and all that. It's the same in virtual events, right? So you can't just have a video call where you're just talking to each other and that's an event. Actually, that's not how it works, right?
So correct me if I'm wrong, but is your app similar to Zoom or any of the other like Google Meets or
Right. I mean, this is a common question we get. I feel like there's no right or wrong answer to this, because some people consider having a Zoom call as an event, right? So whether you're having a webinar and whatnot. But if you drill down to actually what an event is, there's many components that make an event an event. Like, so for example, So for example, if you're going to media launch, right? So media launch, arrive there, there's food, you get to meet other people, you register, you get to network with other medias there, and then, there's a presentation and whatnot. So I feel like the Zoom call is kind of like the presentation component.
Okay, so huge demarcation between what a video conferencing app is and what your platform is.
Yes.
Okay, so just to clarify with all of you out there, because I was probably also in the same boat. I thought must be just another Zoom or another Google.
Is it like another video conferencing?
Yeah.
But like I said just now, video conferencing for me equates to something like a presentation or some kind of interaction between the attendees and whoever's hosting the event. Right. So that's basically what a Zoom call is, right? But of course, there's other components, right? Like how about the networking component? How about registering? How about the post-event?
Right? And that's where the headache is actually. Trying to get your registration, your guests, even your speakers, logistics, and all that. So you're saying that we can, all this is on your app. Or we can manage it from your app.
Yeah, and even on a normal event where you're face to face, it's hard to manage, right? You've got to have you got to have people at registration. You got to have people this. You got to engage them after the event. So digital makes it even harder. Right? You can't even meet them physically. How are you going to pass out stuff to them and all that? So you kind of need a platform where all your information is. So kind of like a hub.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So that's what we kind of solve. So we bring in all the components of the event, be it the presentation or the video call, whether it's the networking in between, or whether you want to disseminate files or scheduling and registration. It's all in one place.
So it's like a depository as well?
Yeah. So it's like a collective thing. And with video conferencing, they'll send you something like an invite, and it's in your email. And then if they send notes, they email it to you or they WhatsApp to you. So I feel like with just video conferencing, your information is scattered. Right. It'll be everywhere or whatever.
And then there's a follow-up email, and you have to check.
And there's many platforms. Right. So for example, if you get on Google Meets or you get on Zoom, or so you get an invite from Zoom, you get an invite from Google Meet, then you start remembering like which platform is it, right? So I feel like the information overload is what we're trying to handle here, and automation. So that's kind of like where this app slots into your agenda as an event organizer and somebody that's attending an event too. So
who would you say would be a good client for this app? You mentioned event organizers, but how about venues? Would they get any benefit out of maybe subscribing to this app?
Correct. So this app is actually, I kind of like to say that it's not really an app, because the app is kind of like the front end, right? So this actually sits on a platform, and this platform has kind of like 3 stakeholders.
Okay.
So if you're looking at the attendees, so the people that are coming to the event and they want to experience the event, right? So you are trying to give them a better experience on that. And then you also have people that are hosting the event. So they may be hosting it at a venue, they may be hosting it online. So they also have to provide the best experience and have to manage all the other intricacies of the event through this platform. And you also have venues, like you mentioned, that are actually hosting both. They're hosting the people that are coming and the people that are organizing, right? So they, as the infrastructure, they are the people that are providing the venue and all these kind of things, right? So these stakeholders, what our platform does is ties up the whole stakeholder responsibilities and objectives into one place where everybody not only knows where all the information is, it's organized, it's automated. I don't need to do stuff individually, and it kind of solves that whole problem for these people. So going back to your question, who can use? Okay, events are generally anything with a start, beginning, and in the middle there'll be some kind of content, correct? So for me, you could be a training company where you're doing training and your training starts at 9 and ends at 10. There's a video call, there's also live people joining the session, and you need to disseminate information after that, and they need to network. You can use the app. If you're doing a conference, it's the same. So conference, they need to register, come to your thing, look at your map and all this kind of thing. Is there a Zoom call link and all that? It's also there. For venues, they can actually provide this out to event organizers, to seminar organizers, conference organizers, or MICE organizers for their attendees. Yeah, so it's actually very wide, even from education to venues or to people that are organizing events.
Okay, so I'm going to touch on 2 things that you mentioned. Number one, you view an event as something that has a start and end and content in the middle.
Correct.
Right? So I'm just trying to see potentially even like classroom settings. So whether it is universities, we know that a lot of universities now are just going digital, right? So would they be, a potential user?
Yes.
Because it is like a mini event, right? When you're in a classroom, whether it's primary school, secondary school, universities, you start class at 9 a.m., you finish, class at 1 with content in between and teachers and students. So, could this possibly be also an avenue?
Yeah, so it's funny that you mentioned the education industry because I feel like, because I'm a parent, and I feel like the education industry was totally unprepared for this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I've got 3 kids at home where there are different levels, they have different classes, and I feel like the information was just like everywhere, right? And I feel like they really, it's so funny that, this was actually created for events, but I feel like the education industry has a lot more to benefit from a platform like this than just an event organizer. Because event organizers, they don't organize an event every hour.
Yes.
Whereas, a
That's
student may,
to think about.
student may have 4 or 5 classes a day. You're talking about different subject matters, different teachers, different timings, and all that follow up with homeworks and whatnot. And you really need a platform that can aggregate the information for the student, especially if you're dealing with young children, right? Because at the simplest level, the young children, they need something easy. If you start sending emails and WhatsApps and sending them hangouts, it becomes like my kids are. It's a total disaster. And I believe like this platform, it's not just an event management platform, it also digitizes the whole process. Yeah, and it enables people to just like, hey, I just open the app. It's really easy. The back end sorts out all the complicated things. And the front end is just a simple app with icons on it. And I can click on this. One click, I know my schedule. One click, I can have a reminder. One click, I know who the teacher is. One click, I can see who are the students inside the class.
Wow.
So it's really like a one-click kind of solution.
Okay, so we're going to put some snippets of a demo that Rizal has prepared of the app. So stay tuned until the end to actually see, what this app is, and you'll have a good feel of, a run through of the whole app and the features of the app. I've seen it personally, and I think there's so much that can be done. But I also want to touch on something else you mentioned. You mentioned network. And networking is a big component of any event. What has the TRIXIO EMP app to offer when it comes to networking?
Right. So if you're like me, I'm shy sometimes.
No way.
I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. I joined an event in the United States, and inside that call, there were many big corporations, C-suite people inside there, right? So generally, if you're going to a real live conference and, I see, the CEO of X and X company, whatever it is, ABC company, it's kind of intimidating to actually walk up and say hello and all that. The best thing about digital is you don't need to have a thick face. So for example, you just slide in the DMs there, right? So all I did was, I give you an example, I actually networked with the CEO of Heinz.
Heinz, the ketchup.
Yeah, North America, right? And I saw his name. His name was, so-and-so guy. And it says there Heinz, right? And he was actually the CEO. His name has Heinz in it. He's one of the family members of Heinz.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't know he was a family-owned company.
So much legacy there.
Yeah. So I just clicked it, and he actually accepted my invite because we were in this conference, right? And now, through the power of networking just directly in the app, I could actually chat with him directly in the app, and he's 30, 40,000 whatever miles away in the app.
Okay, so the app is like a somewhat like an Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah, it's like
also.
Yeah, most apps now actually provide in-app communication.
In-app communication.
And this does that also. So for example, if you're having an event, and me and you kind of like communicate with each other, and actually I don't really need to see. I don't even need to know your name. I just say, Soraya, can you just shake the phone at the same time, or we just touch it at the same time, and it pops up at both our screens, and I just add, right? So I'll know what your name is, what your profile is, and it's really that simple. And it provides this avenue like to just communicate, right? So after the event, we can even have rooms where we open up a room, and all the people that we communicate to with a similar interest, we can have private rooms or spin-off events. So this is really opens up. So people thought virtual was like, oh my God, virtual is so limited. It actually opens up a huge this kind of platform actually open up a huge more possibilities of what you can do, which you previously could not do in even just normal events.
So could I summarize to say that potentially market leaders of various industries could curate certain communities by using these your app, because if they onboard or if they download the app, then obviously you have similar interests, right?
Correct.
Like if I am attending a virtual event that is fintech related, I'm sure those who are attending are also fintech fanatics. And if I could network, I can pretty much network for the remainder of the next 6 months. And that kind of very vibrant communication is quite crucial for the ecosystem.
So the keyword here is community and ecosystem, right? So nobody wants to do anything now just like one time. People want to have it to communicate, to continue and gather more and more acceleration and traction, right? So the hard part about having just events and there's no follow-ups after that, or you're just having follow-ups through email, it's very hard. When I attend one event, for example, we go to FinTech 101, and that happens early in the year, it's very hard for me to keep in touch with you through email, or we have to go through WhatsApp, and it's hard for me to keep in touch with a large amount of people from that event. So the communication gets kind of cut off. And then that person becomes somebody that you used to see, oh, I met him at an event once or whatever, right? So you don't really get to maximize this connection that you have with people that you're sitting 2 or 3 days inside, right? So we have, apart from our TRIXIO EMP, inside the app itself, we have what we call TRIXIO 365. And for example, if you're doing FinTech conference, and I'm an organizer of FinTech 101, and this year I'm going to have 4 sessions, right? So every quarter there's one, and every quarter there's a different group of people. Say there is 100.
Different cohorts.
Correct. I can slowly add these people to a group, and at the end of the year there'll be 400 people in this group, and what we call a community. And they can actually now, oh, you're from batch 1, batch 2, and then they can actually share their ideas continuously without interruption, without trying to figure out, oh, what's their contact, or I have to look through my contact list. I don't need to do that because it's all in-app, all related to the event in the app. Very powerful.
I can see the value for the owner of the app because, guys, you've got immediate database. I mean, your email list is going to be fantastic, right? Because these are people who are actually keen on being part of it. Not just, okay, I'll drop my business card in a fishbowl.
And it goes missing.
And then it goes missing, right? Obviously, if they're engaging continuously, they have interest and, they will add value to your community.
It's interesting that you said for the app owners, right? So for the people that are engaging or organizing events on our app, what this means, more money, for sure. Because why? Now they're all interacting, they can introduce more people, and the fact that they're going to get so much value from interacting with all these people, like-minded people in a certain subject, it's going to open up a resource for them. Resource means value. Right?
And you never know who you'll meet, like, Mr. Hines himself.
And they can really provide you insights, right? So on things. And then when you do a new event or you introduce a new kind of thing, they're like, hey, I want to get on that too because I've got a lot of value from the past event. It's probably upselling.
So for if I, let's say, if I'm a company or if I'm an agency that hosts, let's say, 20 events in a year, theoretically, does that mean that I will have to have multiple versions of your app or just one app? Because you know how if I host like event 1 in quarter 1, event maybe 3, 4, 5 in quarter 2, I might have to have like
many apps.
How does it work with
so traditionally, event apps are nothing new. But I feel like with TRIXIO EMP, we've made it into what we call a container app. Right? So there's 2 versions. You can actually create a branded app, which is a white label app. So if I'm ABC company, I can actually have an ABC company app with my logo, with my name and all that.
Wow, customization.
And then that brings your whole branding to the customer directly. And any event I organize actually sits inside this container app. And it's real life. So as soon as as soon as we publish this app to the store, Google Play Store, Apple Store, any event that you put in 20 events, it's real time. So you can actually have the events. And anybody that joins your events doesn't need anymore to download another app. So the the events automatically update into this single app, right? So this is the power of having a container app. And if you have any communities, I don't need to download a community app. So actually the app is divided into two sections. You see in the picture that I sent it to you. The top part will be communities and the bottom parts will be the events. So you can see the events. Yeah, you can see the events that's already passed. And you can see the events that are upcoming too.
Right.
They can browse it.
And how about, like, let's say payments? So if there's a event coming up, or if I'm attending an event, and obviously there'll be F&B.
Correct.
And because your platform allows for hybrid also, right?
Yes.
So
how do we handle those?
Is there a back-end payment gateway or macam?
All right. So currently we do not have a back-end payment gateway, but the app itself. But we can work with your payment gateway because these are all just web links, right? So for example, you mentioned just now payment and registration, and what was the other one? The back-end of F&B and all that, right? Yeah. So each person has their individual QR code. So I'll have Rizal with my individual QR code. So all we need to do is work with, for example, the venue or the POS system that the F&B system is using, and I can already claim my food, which may be preset for me. Yeah, preset for me, right? And also in the app, so for example, if I give, you're somebody that wants to go to the event and you don't know anything about it, I can send you a link, because basically that's how anything starts. You have to send a link or QR code. When you click that link, it will tell you an explanation about the event. Okay, this is the event, blah, blah, blah. You can pay here. As soon as they pay, the email that comes back is a link to download the app. All right? Or if you don't want to download the app, you can click and register on our web app. So whatever is on the web app and the event app is available, same information, right? So I click there, I've already paid, and now I got access to the app. So that's basically how that works. And you can, you see, the best thing about it is we're kind of like platform agnostic. So we don't favor Zoom over Teams because all companies have different contracts and different preference in terms of software. For example, I'm a huge Google fan, so I was forced to use Teams. I feel uncomfortable about that, but now the platform supports all these apps, and we'll also be able to support any gateway, payment gateway, as long as there's a link, right? So the app, you just list it as a link. They click it, they pay through some secure platform that as an organizer that you've chosen, and then they just get the link to our app, and Bob's your uncle, you just get on that.
Wow, so seamless.
Very easy, very seamless, platform agnostic. That's the best part.
Right. So again, stay put until the end so that we are able to kind of show you a condensed version of the demo. The demo is very, very self-explanatory,
so easy.
And it seems to be very user-friendly. So stay until the end of the show, and we'll kind of show you some snippets of it.
Definitely.
Okay. I want to actually touch a little bit or actually tap into your experience in the event space. So, give some tips to the event community right now, because you were one of the first few who kind of took the bull by its horns. Sorry, Freudian slip there. Took the bull by its horns and actually pivot quickly. But some of the players of the industry might not have kind of acted as quickly, and now they're kind of finding themselves, in a difficult or rather sticky situation as to, oh no business, right, for the rest of the year. But give us some tips or some experiences, valuable tips that makes a successful event, or how does one navigate through this challenging times?
So tip number one, use TRIXIO EMP.
TRIXIO EMP, there you go, plug.
But actually, as you mentioned, I've been doing events for a good, 12, maybe a bit more than that, and we've done events from, just like 20 people, all the way up, actually less than that, all the way up to 10,000 people. So we understand what it takes, what the pain points of the events are managing, having people that you can trust and all that kind of thing. And I think the great thing about TRIXIO EMP is that we digitize this, and it gives you a bit more flexibility on automation. So going back to that question of how do you make virtual events better? Okay, there's two parts to this. One, of course, is the obvious, is the digitization of it, right? So that makes it more streamlined, more reliable, more automated. But number two is the actual experience. So like I told you, right, people don't actually understand. And even when I first started, I also thought the events were just video calls, right? So actually people don't understand enough, because virtual events have always been the black sheep of events because nobody wanted to do it. But now that the technology has kind of, or COVID-19 has kind of pushed the technology to the forefront, people are more willing. Even my parents use video conferencing and all that. So actually the technology is now more accessible, right? So when you're doing a virtual conference, definitely you want to make it engaging, right? So we actually have for TRIXIO EMP, we actually have some function of gamification.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I give you an example, right? I've joined some conferences, and then to be honest, sometimes I tune out. Right? You may be tuning out right now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But the idea is that because it's a bit different from a live event. A live event, you're trapped in a room and somebody's talking to you. The only way you can escape is probably fall asleep or go to the restroom. But when you're online, there's so many ways to escape.
Yeah.
You can play, video games. Yeah. You can swipe to another window. You can turn on Netflix. So I feel like there's a lot of ways for people to kind of escape from your thing without even really paying attention to your event. Yeah. So the idea is to gamify, right? So the idea is you want to get them to engage and also be there to the end of your session, right? So number one, of course, you want to maybe engage whoever it is. So engaging is not only just talking to them one way, make it a two-way. If there's a chat, let them answer questions through the chat. And if there's some kind of mini games, like you'll give a mini code at the end and then they can play. So in our app, actually, we have a leadership board of how engaged you are. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You can give out gifts and stuff. So engagement is definitely number one. And and number two is if you want them really to get on board, you want them to network also. Yeah. So networking is another benefit that I get instead of just looking at a call and just receiving information. Networking is another thing where it also means, we're in business, right? So we also do a lot of business networking. So this means money for us, right? So, and the whole idea of doing business and attending events is to network. So network is very important. Also online, a lot of people have to understand the difference between online and live events is it has to be very concise. So whereas you have those hour-long lectures that we used to have when we go into a conference, you kind of have to cut that down by maybe 3 times.
Because people's attention span is
very short, and try to make it visual too, like not just so if you can have slides that pop up on your screen, try to make it very concise and short, and get your point across as soon as possible because you can't have it to be too long because you're really just watching somebody say something online. Yeah, so you want to engaging, make it short and concise, and visual, networking. Yeah. Network. And another thing, the last one that I want to tell everybody, because this is something that's not very clear when you start virtual events, is the production quality.
Actually, there should be an etiquette video for production and production quality, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's the same way the way you write emails, right? So if you don't capitalize your letters, you send, spelling mistakes or grammar mistakes, those are all huge turnoffs for virtual events. Yeah. So what you want to do is make sure that you have proper camera for the presenters, maybe do some kind of rehearsal before it starts, have a proper microphone, and all these things will help them have a better and maybe
experience.
And maybe even use tools instead of just having slides. You can use Prezi. It's a Prezi Live. Prezi Live is interesting, right? Yeah, so I only saw it when I joined an event. So for example, if you can see my face here, and some slides will actually pop up on screen.
Oh, how cool.
Live, live on screen. Okay. And that is more engaging than just watching, like a share screen or whatever. Okay. So you got to think about making the actual experience, more crisp, more high definition, and more better production quality. So if you join one of those, if you tend to join those overseas calls, if you've ever seen Bill Gates video conferencing, it's amazing. He's probably using like a very good camera, very good. So it's the lighting is there. So you want to make sure that they are in the best possible production quality. I'm not trying to say that you got to be like a HBO standard, but you don't just go use your handphone in a dark room and you got to have good lighting and all that. So those don't distract or subtract.
Handphone in a dark room sounds good.
Yeah. Some people do that, and then people can't hear you. It's noisy. So what you want to do is make sure that you're taking it seriously and trying to give the best production quality to the people that are attending. So virtual event is not just a reason to throw your arms out and relax and, be in shorts. It's just like attending the office or, doing a proper live event where we spend a lot of money on AV, LEDs and whatnot. You probably want to invest on some kind of equipment and have that kind of production value where people don't go, oh, I want to watch this, but the production quality is poor or whatever, and that's something that people don't think about.
So definitely invest a little bit.
A little bit.
Because the returns can be, multifold, right? I mean,
and it could be the thing between I want to watch or I don't want to watch.
Betul,
As simple as
and
that.
I think once you've already hooked a viewer, they'll probably come back and they'll probably sign up for more events.
Yes,
right?
I mean that's the whole point, right? Like we want to make sure that events, and we foresee, of course, we talked about live events, but I foresee that events will come back, normal events.
Which was going to be my next question, but so you do foresee that the physical events will return?
Yes.
Make a return?
Being a very social person myself, I kind of miss the social interaction. Of course, now at the moment we have to make sure we social distance and whatnot, but I feel like once, I guess a vaccine will come out, and once the cases are really low, and the Malaysian government has done a great job in Malaysia. We're very, very lucky. And I think people feel safe. So people are starting to, go out, entertain themselves, go to the movies, and events will slowly come back. And I feel like you still, the best thing about it is you still need an app on your phone to kind of help you with events, right? So even if you go to a normal live event, it's still about that, sending an email, what's happening, and how do I network? It's the same thing, same challenges. How do I network after the event? How do I build a community from my event? So I feel like TRIXIO EMP will handle all those objections and all those objectives moving forward, even with hybrid or normal events. And I feel like, I said just now, the black sheep has now become a more acceptable component of events. And like I said, the education industry is just one example of that, where they were not ready and digitized.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if we're going to digitize, we can digitize now. The software and the platform is available. And it's definitely something that we can benefit from right now onwards.
Right. So definitely check them out. Have you got a website
Yes.
that you want to share with the audience?
We do. It's www.trixio, TRIXIO, EMP, event management platform, EMP.com, TRIXIOEMP.com.
We'll also list it down at the bottom of the video so that you can see. And if you're interested, you can reach out to Rizal, or you can just message us on the channel, and we'll hook you up.
That's right.
Okay, before we wrap up, last question. How do you feel, or how do you see this app or this product of yours empowering the community? Because this program is all about empowering people. Correct. So we got to tie it back, and see how do you think this kind of fits into the ethos of empowerment?
Yeah, so we've met, as an event organizer ourselves, and we understand what are the challenges faced by other people that are organizing an event, conference, classes, whatever. So we understand that they need a platform. So the whole idea behind this platform, initially when we pivoted to do this, is that we didn't say empower, but we wanted to enable. So enable is just another word for empowering. So we want to enable people to actually, I'm a small event company or I'm a big corporation, enable them to deliver the best possible experience to the people that are attending, right? So this is empowering them, giving the system to them, and and getting them to break through of organizing. Because events is not easy to organize. You and me know how difficult it is.
That's why I leave it to him.
Yeah.
I was like, bring in the best and let him do it.
Yeah. So apparently, they did a survey. It's like the top 10 jobs that are the most complicated.
Suicidal.
Yeah, and the more high stress. Yeah, the more high stress. You cannot fail. It's always mission critical, right?
Yeah.
So the idea is of giving them the software is actually give it to them, and it empowers them to actually deliver a mission critical event without hiccup, with less manpower, with more automation, more streamliness, and get them to do that. And that's been my whole ethos the whole time I've been a CEO. Is I want to make sure that I give the right tools to the people around me to make sure that they can do the job and deliver the best possible result as they can. And that's the whole idea behind TRIXIO EMP, to be able to enable these people and empower these people to deliver the best that they can.
Yeah, and I think, at least from a person who used to attend a lot of events in the past, whether locally or internationally, I feel that my takeaway is always, how did the whole experience make me feel? Very rarely I can say, unless I have a really short attention span, but I'll probably remember one or two salient points of certain speakers. But generally, it's always a overarching. Oh, that experience at that event was overall so seamless, or overall it added value to me. But you know, I would say that right now, especially, the whole experience of having it virtually will be a game changer, because virtual events aren't so easy to manage. But if you have a tool, a proper platform, you can probably almost simulate that experience of a physical event, right, virtually.
Even better, because most even live events don't even have a platform they're running on.
There you go.
Most of the platforms are just registration platforms or payment platforms. They don't actually encompass the whole cradle to grave experience. So that's something that we're looking at.
Okay, he mentioned payment, so I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, how much is this going to cost? So we are going to definitely connect you if you're interested, connect you to Rizal, connect you to TRIXIO. I've actually seen the pricing plan, and it's not as expensive as
what you think it is.
What you think it is. It is actually very affordable, and you can scale it down and customize according to your
But it ain't free.
It ain't free. It ain't free.
No such thing as a free lunch, right?
No such thing. But I would say that it is value for money, and especially if it is your core business, or you potentially have a lot of events. I would strongly recommend you reach out to Rizal, or go check out their website. You've got some videos on YouTube as well.
Yep. Correct? So it's on the website. You can check out the videos on the website.
Yes, and we'll put the demo again right after this, just a short demo. But thank you so much, Rizal.
Thank you, Soraya, for calling us. It's always a pleasure. Soraya, I've known Soraya for quite a while now. Always spot on.
We've had many great events together all over Malaysia, actually. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and tune in again next time for another episode of Empowering Monday. And until the next guest speaker here on the show, we'll see you. Be safe. Take care.
Bye.
Alright, this is a quick overview of our TRIXIO EMP app. I've just got a demonstration app right here. It's for an event called ETT. And you can see here that this is the splash screen that you get. You even have a sponsor logo and whatnot on it. Okay, so the app that we're going to open today is actually for a conference. These are all the events that you have right here. So I just want to quickly explain this screen. At the top here we have communities. This is something I talked about just now. And of course down here is all the upcoming events that you have for your event or for your company. Okay, so there's a festival one right here. This is interesting. This is basically the layout that we have for all the events, and you can customize any icons that you see right here. This particular one is for a music festival, and they have schedules like for all their bands, and there's my agenda is basically whatever you add on from that schedule. You have important stuff like if you have bands at your event, what kind of bands they are, what's their Instagram when they're playing. You also have announcements, and you can make many announcements directly to your users or attendees, and that can be from talking about sharing rides, anything about delays, or welcoming messages. They also have stuff about food. So for this particular event they have totally customized. And if you want to see a different event, we've got a conference right here, and you can see that it's a totally different setup, because you can definitely customize whatever you want here. We've got one for maps of the event. Just now it's called beer lovers, now it's called attendees. And basically any attendees, we can do networking with them. So I can just add this person, and if that person basically agrees, and I can start chatting with that person right here. All right, so that's where we make a lot of connections. I've got already a connection here. I can WhatsApp and I can text them, and these are all the other events that I have. We also have my profile. This is a little place where I can put my photo. I can say what my position is in my company, where I'm at. Any social accounts or emails can be right there. My phone number, for example, and just a quick summary of me right there. Okay, so you may even have any virtual events or virtual calls. So if you look at the dashboard right here, we have something for live stream. So you can definitely put your live streams inside here. This totally works with Zoom, Teams, Google. So definitely very easy for you guys to use. Okay, we also have a individual badge that you can use for your events. So this particular QR code is for me. So I can check into any events with this particular QR code, which is unique to me. All right, lastly, I just want to talk about the shake or tap to connect function. So if I meet anybody that I want to exchange contact with, I don't really need to go through my connections. I can just shake at the same time as that other person, or just tap the screen at the same time, and their contact will come out here, and we can easily mutually add each other in just a flick of a finger. So that's a kind of a neat function that you have. You see other programs like WeChat, apps have that too. So we have that. Also pretty cool would be our wall. We have a wall, so it's kind of like a social wall. So this is where you can introduce yourself. You can talk about ideas. You can say like, what do you think about the place? Post photos of the night before. Kind of a cool little wall, like a Facebook or Instagram wall. And that can be your community wall for the event. Okay, we did mention about having communities. Communities are basically events that last for a whole year. So these are areas where, if you're having multiple events, community is a great place to actually house all the people that are gathered or, listed from those events, so they can interact and talk about the common subject matter and keep in touch. You don't want to have an event that basically, one time and, you don't get to communicate with people after that. There's no value in that. So definitely TRIXIO, we make it really easy for you to communicate and, nurture big networks. And, ultimately we're in business networking and in information, right? So that's a great place to kind of keep in touch with all your network people or the people that you've met at events. And that will be in communities. Hey, so thanks. If you need any more information about TRIXIO, it's www.trixioemp.com. .co, sorry.